India's startup ecosystem has mastered speed, scale, as well as execution. We're building companies that serve millions and, of course, that reshape everyday behavior. As the ecosystem matures, there's a deeper question that slowly has started emerging. Are we still optimizing business models, or are we beginning to build core technology? Are we building IPs and systems that can define global markets? So to explore that shift, we have two founders who have built from various different frontiers. So please join me as we welcome onto our stage Naiyya Saggi. She is the founder, EDT, and Ankit Mehta, CEO and whole-time director at ideaForge. And coming in and anchoring this session for us is none other than Srikanth Velamakanni, our Vice Chairperson at Nasscom. Over to you, gentlemen, and I'm sure she'll come and join in on our conversation.
Ankit, when Ajay was just saying that we are just beginning to innovate, and I was thinking, oh, here's a guy who's been innovating in the drone space for at least 15 years. Ankit, you started building a drone company back in 2005, when I don't think there was such a movement in India at all. And today, you have been one of the integral parts of how India, for example, responded to the war last year with your drones. So there's been a phenomenal journey of creating technology for India as ideaForge. So can you give me a little sense of what made you start in the space of drone tech back in 2005, and what are the shifts that you've seen in these 20 years in terms of how you've innovated and how you've maybe even bringing AI into it? I'll get to that in a little bit, but if you can just talk us about your journey a little bit, please.
No, absolutely. I think, it's Srikanth, both of us are from the IIT ecosystem. But even in the IIT ecosystem, doing technology or building your own things is not, at least was not very popular in those days. And I used to implement a lot of my original ideas as a student, and as a part of promoting more people doing this, I remember taking a session for the fellow students at IIT Bombay, and at that time, one of my co-founders, Rahul, he came to me and he said, I want to make a hovercraft and float it in the Powai Lake. So that's how the journey began of wanting to build something that flies. And, I think it was the time where robotics had started to become a thing in India. With the late 1990s, the competitions like Yantriki, the student competitions like Yantriki and many others had started to come in India, and the excitement about mobile robotics had begun. And I think it was a chance that we stepped upon making something flying, which eventually got us to the idea of making these 4 rotors. We thought we've changed the world. We got really excited that we've come up with something which is far simpler as a helicopter than a typical helicopter, and we decided to actually build it out. We built the first one in 2004. And since then, we've been building not just the system, but all the building blocks of the system. For example, in 2007, we wrote our first autopilot for drones, which was 2 years prior to the tech became open source and available for wider public. So we have been building the tech from grounds up in India. In fact, in 2008, we delivered the world's smallest and lightest autopilot at that time that could fly all sorts of drones to many labs in the country, who then made their programs successful because of our technology. So I think building was something that was a part of our DNA. We wanted to build tech, but we were unafraid of building it from grounds up. And I think that is something which is, I would say, essential for stepping into, I would say, as a country, in becoming a product nation instead of simply building from the blocks available to us from the rest of the world.
Oh, super inspiring. Naiyya, you are a serial entrepreneur and you have built amazing companies, and now you're building a brand new startup called EDT. And if you guys haven't checked out the air fryer that EDT has, please do check it out. So how has your journey been in terms of this topic about, are we just building a startup, or are we building cool tech? Have you seen that journey evolve through your entrepreneurial journey?
So first of all, it's a pleasure to be here. I feel that there are, I think, two things that I've learned through this very tightly compressed 10 years of entrepreneurship. One is that when we started and when I moved back from the US to India to build my first company, a consumer tech play called Baby Chakra, it was at the heart of it a maternal and child health platform in the wrapper, if you will. Wrappers are now a cool term to use, but in a wrapper, if you will, of content and community. And that led to like crazy retention and smile curves. But even in those days, I remember thinking that, so right, there was a very sort of a here and now approach to building in India. There wasn't an ecosystem or a design thinking that permeated the ecosystem at that point in time. In fact, so much so that everything right from the back-end stack to the front-end experience to like the app store configuration, everything was very, in some sense, patchy. I feel the ecosystem, however, has come a long way since then. If I take the space I'm operating in right now, which is EDT, and at the heart of it, we're a new age brand that is looking to reimagine the daily devices that power our lives through design, tech, and a better for you approach. And therefore, the daily devices are across home, kitchen, and personal care, right? Appliances. When we're looking at the stack today, two things really stand out to me. One is that there is actually now a more solid integration back into the supply chain in India that is emerging with the emphasis you're putting in PLI, with the emphasis you're doing in the EMS ecosystem, with a focus on component manufacturing. So the end-to-end supply chain stack is now becoming more robust. So it's not just you're taking blocks and trying to build them out. There's a more sort of deeper, sharper focus into how do you sustainably build out products for future from India. I think the second piece is the design and the ecosystem thinking is actually now valued. In a world where it's shifting sands with AI, right? People are saying, what are the patterns? What are the trends that we can look together from an ecosystem perspective and build off? And therefore, now when I'm looking at this entire new journey of building Srikanth, it is about saying, building depth, but building with agility on shifting sands of this ecosystem that is before us in a very defining way to build a defining product company, building a defining consumer brand. I think that has been the sort of, shift that we have seen play out in the last couple of years.
The two of you are building products, real world products, manufacturing products in a world of supreme AI progress. And one of my thesis is that every product, service, and process will need AI infused into it. It is probably a customer expectation at this time that the products I use will be intelligent, will be personalized, I can talk to them, may even have world knowledge, and things like that, maybe even have some agency in them, etc. So how are you seeing, first Ankit, you have built a company before AI became so good. So in some ways, your drones, you do not expect them to be intelligent back in the day. But now maybe that has changed. So how are you reimagining drone tech in the age of AI?
No, absolutely, Srikanth. So, one of the fundamental pillars of, what we wanted to do when we started was that we wanted our customer or our user to focus on their job. And one of the users that we had chosen to serve at that time after the Taj attacks was the Indian Armed Forces. And we felt that their job is not to fly a drone, right? Their job is to basically do surveillance so that they can manage those situations better. And therefore, in order to make their life easy, we were always focused on building a lot of autonomy in the way they would operate the system. So making it simpler for the customer to operate the drone was something which was a part of our DNA. But AI adds a completely new layer to it. It adds the ability to adapt operationally to the type of environments where we are now increasingly going to see our systems deployed, which is not just in a controlled environment where an operator is sitting, but actually they will be required to operate out of a box or out of a perched deployment anywhere in the world so that they can do a specific task or a specific job. So that's the side of operational autonomy, where it needs to adapt to the environment, and AI is increasingly the means of understanding the environment, and particularly a complex, diverse environment. The other part is the autonomy on the outcome we deliver to the customer. Because a lot of times what drones are doing is they are sensing the environment. They are observing what is happening on ground. And that observation vantage point is a very unique vantage point that you otherwise don't have from other assets on ground. And therefore, understanding the scene and getting outcomes from for the customer from that scene, sometimes it is available in real time because the understanding of the scene can happen in real time, be it video or other sensor information, or sometimes you have to capture a lot of data, synthesize it in the background, and then generate intelligence out of that data, because the fidelity at which we are able to capture data is now down to millimeter level. And therefore, processing that information in real time may not be feasible. And I'm assuming that hardware will make a lot of it feasible progressively, but presently it is not. But presently, you capture data, you process it, and then you deliver results offline. But the results are not generated by people, and that's becoming a trend with most of our customers, where they are wanting to use as less people as possible directly observing the data. They would want a system, an AI to look at the data, which is depersonalized, which is in a way makes them feel more secure actually now, that a particular individual has not looked at the data, and therefore they won't cause a issue, because a lot of this data is security sensitive. A lot of this data is about day-to-day operations of a specific location that may be sensitive from a overall compliance point of view. And therefore, that demand on outcome autonomy is again increasing. It is more complex. It is tougher to deliver autonomy on outcome, particularly in use cases where the level of assurance is something that is very difficult to bridge. You do not expect that if I am cutting a challan for somebody who's not parked wrongly, you don't want to cut it for the wrong reasons or for the wrong location or whatever. So the accuracy determines how much people involvement will be there eventually. But at this point in time, the expectation is there. We are seeing a lot of opportunities, both from enterprise and from the government, where on operations as well as on outcome, they need AI and they need embedment of capability there. In fact, I just want to add that in robotics, the need on operational side also becomes compounded because people want one-to-many systems. When you want one-to-many systems, you want maybe one operator controlling hundreds of systems so that you can free up other people and really act as a force multiplier. And that time is here and now. Actually, it is a capability that is being demanded today.
So customers expect more autonomy, more agency in adverse environments, they're to be more intelligent, and even sort of process all the data and give you insights at the end of it as well. Can you give me a sense of the amount of data that a typical drone flight generates into just the volume and size?
If it is a video, then it would be about 2 to 3 GB of data. If it is images,
per flight.
Per flight. And if I were to take images, it can go close to 10 GB of data from a single flight.
Exactly.
So it's extremely data heavy. And therefore, there is pressure on either transporting the data to the cloud or to a processing center. And therefore, edge AI, or like we try to call it now, physical AI, is becoming very, very critical in our domain as well.
Absolutely. Now, coming to you, you just started a new company. Is there an opportunity for you to build this AI native as an AI native company? And if so, where are you on that journey? And what is your customers' expectation about the products being smart and responsive and maybe even converse with you and things like that. There are obviously household appliances now which have some of these features, but where do you see EDT on that journey and what are your customer expectations?
So, we have this paradigm internally that we call stable tech, AI fluent, and AI native. And that's sort of the trajectory that we look at the company journey being on. In fact, when I was talking to one of my advisors, Caitlin Kalinowski, who's actually heading hardware at OpenAI, and we were discussing this paradigm, she was like, Naiyya, while you're really looking at sort of the consumer-facing piece, there's so much opportunity on the back-end piece as well. So I'll just kind of break these two pieces out for the benefit of this discussion. On the consumer-facing piece, I think we're sort of in the paradigm where physical AI is actually becoming real, right? And what that entails is hyper-personalization. I'm talking about an outcomes perspective. Hyper-personalization, a very seamless integration into, whatever jobs to be done for the consumer there is. And in fact, an amplification, if you will, of the daily experience of life. Clear example would be, let's say if I'm talking to, if I wake up in the morning, I want to boil my water in my EDT kettle, which we are yet to launch, so please note. If I am talking to it, it understands it's me and I drink coffee versus my partner who normally drinks a cup of tea, and the temperature changes happen accordingly. But the paradigm we're starting off from a front-facing perspective is actually on the sensor programming. So the way we programmed our PTC, NTC sensors on the Luma, our first product, is such that when you're cooking Indian food in it, right, it actually, an air fryer normally would cook things very crisp, right? But then we have multiple settings and it cooks Indian food extremely well. It's programmed to adjust the sensors to cook Indian food very well and also do it in a way where it retains nutrition, right? So that we call stable tech internally. Now, that is the consumer-facing aspect. But that's where it becomes interesting from the back-end aspect. Now, right from, the vision we had building EDT was, can we launch and deploy, especially in an extremely hyper-competitive consumer market, hardware at the speed of software, right? That is sort of the utopian dream for anybody building in hardware. And the reality is there are a couple of constraints at each level. One is at the manufacturing level, right? The IQC, OQC framework. There are a lot of failure points there. Can you actually move faster using and leveraging insights that your AI models actually provide you in saying that these are going to be recurring patterns? Here is where you kind of ensure that these get fixed almost real time, right? Versus waiting for those almost 10, like literally anywhere between 1,000 to 5,000 pages of, reports coming and then kind of compress that. The second piece is in the design process, right? In the DVT process itself, so there's EVT, DVT, PVT, right? In the DVT process itself, where you're getting design ready for production, there's a failure point there. And that's where you can actually run AI models to understand, hey, is this going to survive real-time frameworks, real manufacturing situations, heat, thermal pressures? And that kind of compresses your time because it reduces failure points. The third point is actually in supply chain. I mean, honestly, our industry is very reliant on global supply chain. And therefore, to predict and to almost be smart about impacts costs, it impacts like inventory, reliability, predictability. Be smart about it. We haven't leveraged it fully the way it can be leveraged, but at scale we will, and we want to. You can actually therefore have almost an advantage in almost predicting where to source from, at what point to source from, where to place inventory bets. And I think the last piece is actually in the operations piece of it all, right? Today, we've integrated with an AI assistant on our platform, which reduces our dependence on customer-facing care. It's a minuscule number of what I would normally do given the barrage of questions that come in. The response time is as low as anywhere from 0.7 seconds to about 5 seconds, right, of response onto launching marketing campaigns, right, using generative AI. So I think the entire back to the front end of building a new age company in this AI paradigm, the efficiency there, Srikanth, is almost, if I were to build with, let's say, a team of 70 people to kick off with versus a team of 15 people that I am today.
No, you spoke very eloquently about not just building AI-infused products that customers can see, but how to build an AI-native organization that can build these amazing products. So, Ankit, how about ideaForge? Could you also talk a little bit about how you are reimagining your organization to build the latest and greatest tech?
I think first and foremost, what the recent AI shift has done is, in my opinion, it has democratized knowledge in a way that was not possible earlier. The amount of time it would take to debug a problem in the previous approach versus getting the starting points for a problem or potential starting points for a problem has become like yesterday's, like you can do it the moment you get the idea. And a lot of debates settled. So, and I'm starting from the first phase of designing a product where you're literally trying to imagine what to build for the customer and how will you build it. The starting points for everything are real and they are extremely, I would say, available at a moment's notice today. You still have to go through the grind of building. You still have to go through the grind, like Naiyya rightly said. You can leverage a lot of AI in designing itself now. A lot of products that we use for engineering design today have native AI capabilities that can do generative design, that can actually make hyper-efficient systems that can be leveraged for doing structures and doing analysis has become AI first in many cases. So increasingly we are seeing proliferation of AI in every tool that we were using to design our systems on the digital domain first. You have to go test. Now getting testing all of that data and processing that into root cause analysis, understanding the trends in the data has become far easier now. So the entire design process is getting aided and is getting accelerated using AI. AI is of course being leveraged in manufacturing systems for quality management, ensuring that critical to quality areas are not compromised by human errors, right? Today, we are at a place in India where for every type of capability, robotics or effort, robotics is not essential from a cost-benefit analysis. But quality is something you cannot compromise on, and therefore, anything which is critical to quality, AI has a potential to make sure that that is highlighted, that is not left without being 100% checked and evolved. So many areas of that nature are where we are leveraging. Of course, on the back end for customer management, for doing assessments of the customer's life of the product is another domain where AI is very helpful because it can read the trends in the health of the system, the logs of the system, and pop up what are the kind of phases or potential physical issues that the customer may face due to degradation over time, etc. So there are a lot of domains where AI has to be embedded because it is genuinely difficult for people to keep track of the variables that you have in the real world. And we are able to find that certain hidden trends are being revealed by analysis that is done using AI.
So both of you have spoken about how to build better products and also be more efficient in the way of building products. Quick answer, has it also dramatically improved your speed to market, or are you seeing that play out?
It has actually. In terms of software, yes, in a very big way.
You too?
Definitely.
Okay. Okay. Maybe one question I want you guys to talk about is, how much of this AI native or AI fluent, like Naiyya you talked about, how much of that is about assembling the best tech that's already available there versus building things that no one else is building because no one has yet built it? So how much of that for you is core new tech development, AI, R&D, or R&D in general, and how much of that is about just assembling the best of tech in the world that's already there and bringing that together in a design-friendly or more human-centric way?
So I think in terms of developing core technology, I think there is a unique opportunity in India, particularly in our space and in robotics and mobility in general, I would say, where our conditions are not the same as the rest of the world. The clutter in our environment is very different. The environmental conditions are very different. Nowhere else in the world, other than perhaps some of our potential adversaries or neighbors, are the climatic conditions in places where our forces operate as extreme as what we have in India. We have to make systems operate at minus 30, minus 40 degrees at a 6,000, 7,000 meter altitude, which nobody else has in the world. We have to operate, that same system needs to be flexible enough that it can operate in the desert or can operate in the vast coastline that we have in our country, all in a tropical environment which is hot, humid, and some of the extremes that we think of or we talk of in terms of environmental conditions exist. That, plus if you look at the urban clutter that we have, if you have to make something that has to navigate the space in India, it's going to be far more complex than doing it anywhere else in the world. So we have some unique opportunities that are not going to get solved merely by putting things together. That's what I'm trying to arrive at. That the opportunity we have is that we have to build things from grounds up. So I'll give you an example of what happened with us. When 4G came to India, the same communication tech in the free bands that we used to be able to get about 3 to 4 kilometers line of sight communication on came down to 400 because in India 4G on both the lower side and the higher side of the open band was allocated to 4G. Now suddenly every tech that you have globally available, and we tested so many modules, unless and until we were genuinely bleeding through our noses and make our customers go through a very expensive product cycle, we would not have recovered that communication capability. So we had to build our own communication stack that allowed us to break that barrier, to uniquely build a capability that almost nobody else has globally. And I think those are the moments that each of us need to identify of what uniquely makes us solve the problem from grounds up. Unless we do that, we will have a very difficult time, particularly in strategic sectors, because denial is a real possibility. We are seeing that happen. As we speak in the global environment, we are seeing sabotage happen. We have seen denial happen now. So unless and until we go down to the building blocks and know what is critically important for the country and for our own operations, we need to make sure that it's built from ground up. So that's at least how we think about it. But having said that, getting to a prototype, to understand the base building blocks, you should and you will have to leverage what's available so that you can get a sense of whether it's practical or not, and then progressively build it natively.
There's no point in reinventing what's already out there. So certainly we have to take what's best out there. But you're also solving some amazingly specific India problems. How about you, Naiyya?
So, just to contextualize what we're building at EDT, right? It is a premium consumer brand and product. And therefore, there's a level of promise that we have to our end consumer. And if I were to break down the pieces that make this experience come to life, Srikanth, the first is literally just rapid prototyping and getting almost like our NPD prototypes out quickly. Bluntly, India is not there yet, right? And we will get there. We're not there yet. And that's why we're leveraging a lot of global partners to get us to rapid prototyping faster. The second is molding and tooling, right? The finish, the casings, the experience. Again, India's picking up steam, but right now there's still a dependency on like the clean finish, premium experience, the touch and feel, the texture, materials engineering, right? That global markets bluntly have. But then you come to the period or the phase of the experience which delivers, which is the experience of bluntly firmware, which is the experience of UI, and which is the experience of when you bring it all together, there's a bit of a cost arbitrage that comes in when you're looking at building in India and building the tech stack in India. And when it all comes together, that's when magic gets created, really. So right now, if I look at the ecosystem I'm operating in, there is definitely reliance on certain global partners. And then there is also the understanding that this too will shift. But today it is, I would say, for most of my peers, a bit of a hybrid approach. I think where I'm very positive is, again, when we've been discussing at length as an industry and from the government perspective as well, and I think it kind of stems from the defense mandate, really. It's a national sovereignty issue today. But as you think about the fact that an iPhone can be manufactured in India as well, right? That we are investing extensively in the EMS ecosystem, that we're extensively getting trained in the next level of molds and tools, so we can actually manufacture and be a very potent country plus one strategy from India. I think the future will shift to having an end-to-end stack play out from here as well.
So, ladies and gentlemen, these are two amazing Indian companies, EDT and ideaForge, building AI-native, amazing tech for India and potentially for the world. So please give it up for these two people. Thank you, Ankit. Thank you, Naiyya, for the session.
Thank you. Can I request you all to continue joining us because we'd like to present you with a token of our appreciation. And thank you all so much. We wish you the best of luck, and you can also take that picture till our mementos come onto the stage.